These Saudi animatus, these Saudi sty. Maptuk Enola, come. Hello, my imaginary friends. Today with you, as usual, Dutch, Maptuk, Guy, and Voven. Guy. And today, we will summarize all our previous streams on the work of David Lynch. Let's explain what really happens in the third season of Twin Peaks, reveal all the internal logic and background of the plot. To understand and predict actions, you need to understand the logic of what is happening. And understanding the logic of a movie plot, events, and so on and so forth, you can make predictions that are more or less likely to come true. This will be the proof of how well you were able to build a model of the logic of the plot. If you look at our previous streams and summarize all our predictions, you can see that the vast majority of X's have come true. We will probably list them. We started all our streams with a preliminary retelling of the first two plots. Here, perhaps, we will say how it ended. The fact that Agent Cooper was in the Red Room, in the vestibule of the Black Wigwam, locked up for 25 years. Bob, and part of Cooper, incarnated, let's say, in the manifested reality, under the guise of the so-called evil Cooper. And with this, the season is just spinning on the third part of this Twin Peaks. We have made the following assumptions: that the good Agent Cooper has accumulated an incredible amount of luck in the Red Room for 25 years, and then he will push his luck through the whole season, which will be on the side. It is with her that he will defeat the evil Cooper. It totally came true, totally worked. Then we, our friends Aptuk, predicted that there would be some additional branch, explaining the design of the room, which is shown at the very beginning of the season, which connects just in reality, in which an incomprehensible creature appears and kills a couple. But David Lynch decided not to develop this plot. No, a friend is a daughter. It's Bob who's there. I said Bob is in charge. In other words, he created a design. It was confirmed, so misspoke. Yes, the fact that Bob created it was really confirmed, but David Lynch simply did not develop this storyline. I'll explain why now. And if you follow the plot of the dream, as we have already said, David Lynch shoots exactly all of his works about the ghost. Using dream logic, there are many side quests. And these quests can become quite non-side quests if you direct your attention to them. But David Lynch goes through a certain sequence of quests, and I think no one will allocate a budget to him, so he breaks off all side quests to nowhere. Also, by the way, it happens in a dream. When you go on some quest, all the side ends in nowhere. Remember well. What other predictions of ours have come true? There were a lot of them. The fact that my prediction is that these so-called lumberjacks are Bob's homies, and his main quest will be to pull them into the real world. Although this did not happen, but since events developed according to a different scenario, that is, Bob lost. But nevertheless, it was clear that they were behaving. And if you remember, they behave like God. That is, initially, any non-organ behaves quite primitively. When he eats energy, he's pretty like that. His behavior becomes more voluminous, or something, more intelligent. He ceases to be like a program. I think you're making it too complicated right now. Friend Voven, Can you still remember? Did we have any more predictions? I predicted that his head would be blown off with a shovel. Unfortunately, this did not happen. It's just a green gardening glove above fucking and some more. The fact that these are parallel dimensions, yes, worlds. And although it seemed that they were, let's say, not quite compatible, that is, it seemed that it was all the same reality, they gathered, and it kind of refutes it. But no, it doesn't really refute, it just shows that Cooper has reached a level where reality, dreams do not matter for him. In other words, this is his kind of dream, and quite parallel branches of reality can interact with each other, even there is a constant jumping here. Okay, I'll simplify it. There are many disputes where the real reality is shown in the work of David Lynch, but ours, which physically objectively exists, and where reality is not very real, where there is either a dream or someone's glitches, it does not matter. The fact is that this is initially a false assumption, and it is not necessary to divide reality there into real, unreal, dreamy, and so on. If at the beginning of the plot, David Lynch can still introduce some chips to make it clear that there is a manifested reality somewhere, and somewhere the reality of a dream, then towards the end of his work, they always merge, because with a certain practice of dreams, it becomes clear that our so-called reality is nothing more than a stable collective dream. And if you follow the plot of Twin Peaks, it becomes especially clear. Well, each branch of reality is absolutely real with one, but nevertheless, it is how to say it. These are the nuances that are really difficult to explain. It's really easier to explain them by the fact that for me, at least, that Cooper has reached such a dream, where he very easily jumps along parallel branches. But let's note here, so to speak, this kind Cooper jumps like that, and Bob has to use other people's capabilities. Take into account the coordinates, use other characters of this Enola to achieve the same thing, shows that he does not have such skill. Let's just say he doesn't have such an opportunity, because we, as if continuing to explain the logic, the internal logic of what is happening in the third season of Twin Peaks, should note that there is still such a thing as a reserve of strength, which is directly related to the reserve of luck. Good Agent Cooper has accumulated a huge reserve of dash of luck power while in the Red Room, and then they act very clumsily, but with a very large reserve of this personal power, and therefore, even the most outright idiotic actions and decisions he pushes through, and they turn out for him as it should, simply due to seemingly random circumstances. With evil Cooper, the situation is the opposite. At the very beginning, when it was just time for the good Cooper to return from the Red Room, the evil Cooper set up some kind of trap to stay in this reality, so that he would not be knocked out. The trap in general almost worked, but God lost his power, as shown in the scene with Gorbangoja vomiting in the car. And then, he acts completely without a reserve of this very personal power, that is, he has good skills, but there is no reserve, and the good Cooper, on the contrary, has a large reserve, but very poor skills. He behaves like a completely unconscious being, almost to the very end of the series. Actually, being this doggy is like this, which is better Nattern. And a conscious dreamer. An even dumber being than Doogie, because Doogie was doing something stupid in that reality. This one generally just repeats the last few words, and yet, it's more than enough for him. And his own, so to speak, because of what exactly he turned out to be like that. In the beginning, it is shown that he was scared by an evil tree. It was it that knocked him down on a construction site. He went through the wrong place, and maybe just where it is necessary, because if you notice Agent Cooper appears in this device, next to which people were killed, then it is already possible how once they had to kill not people but wait for him. And due to the fact that something went wrong, he was able to skip this stage, but jump out with a down personality, without memory, without any experience, and he was able to acquire this experience and knowledge there after 2/3 of the season, when still once he was shaken out of the socket.
Спустя 2/3 сезона, когда еще раз его тряхнул из розетки.
It's hard to say. Do you have anything to add? I remembered the fourth prediction that came true. It's about the fact that this creature is a toad he sects, that he is just Laura Palmer herself, but grandmother, that is, it moved into the grandmother, then it was embodied in the form of a mother, as non-organs gave birth to Laura. That is, this is a difficult quest like this. The confirmation of this is simple, which shows that Laura's mother Sarah is not quite human. Well, or let's put it bluntly, not quite a person. Only the mask is stretched like this, and there was nothing wrong in the depths there and close to it. I would like to remind you that one of the last episodes shows for a second the face of Pinocchio in a mask, who appeared in the fire and with me. And this face is half of it, as if Sarah Palmer's face emerges from it. And at the very end, when Agent Cooper gets to the location of the hotel and the Little Things store, the same creature with the face of Pinocchio in half with Sarah Palmer runs down the stairs to meet him when Cooper and Mike climb it. So, we riddled the beginning of the plot to the internal logic. Maybe, briefly, no, programs, yes, yes, yes. In short, we probably need to retell the plot of everything that is happening, without being distracted by side quests that are so fond of solving. I don't know, Vovan, can you tell me the general plot? A daughter. Now, well, I do not know how not to delve into the dream details. It's better not to go deeper, it's better not to go deeper. Tell the story here in a simple way, in a proletarian way. Well, at the simplest level, according to David Lynch, there were nuclear tests in Nevada, the very first in the world, during which a nuclear explosion melted part of the sand in the desert, which turned into glass. And there are photos, including color ones of these tests, which were declassified by the US Department of Defense. And this piece of glass looks like a green malachite block from afar, in which there is a chipped, well, trace of the nuclear explosion itself in the center. And the dwarf in the fire, come with me, strokes the big green table with his hands, and says that this, he says, is a table made of a single piece, and the ring is made of a table, and shows with his fingers a chipped in this table, from which the ring was supposedly made, which designated the next person who was supposed to die, and move the wigwam. Here, so that's a direct parallel. David Lynch also shows that during the atomic explosion, an entity, the so-called mother, appeared, which vomited up a lot of all sorts of entities, including, apparently, woodcutters, and specifically Bob, who flew off in the form of a bubble and turned into a toadfly. The white wigwam reacted to this, which, according to David Lynch, is either in the old world, on the 3rd level, or on the moon, as anyone is interested. You know, this explanation is like this, it's too much, when it's not magical. It seems to me quite wrong. Okay, let me try it in a simple way. And the 3rd season begins with the fact that it's time for Agent Cooper to leave the Red Room. His sentence has passed. The vow was given for 25 years, and it's time for him to leave. But angry Bob doesn't want to let him out, and does some feint with his ears. There really is such a thing as some bifurcated parallel realities, because at some moments it is shown that the evil Cooper communicates with some of his agents through some strange mysterious device. And he creates a clone of himself in some parallel branch, so that when the good Cooper returns, it was replaced not by his Cooper, but by this clone of Doogie's double.
клона двойника Даги.
He creates Doggy, who is rather feeble-minded, but with a certain reserve of personal strength, too, so that he works. Because Doogie also threw up Garmonbozi before he was replaced by Agent Cooper. Plus, there is some kind of, how to say it, an incomprehensible agreement with an evil tree of some kind. In general, it does not matter. Anyway, Agent Cooper, who should have normally returned to his state with his memory, with his personality, returns to a slightly parallel reality, in the form of such a half-witted Doogie, who does not understand anything of what is happening. He has only some basic instincts preserved, but due to a huge stock of luck, he immediately avoids assassins, all other problems. The world revolves around him, simply due to the fact that he turns out to be the main player in this dream. He has the most power, so the world begins to revolve around him. All events are connected. Maybe it's worth explaining, or it's not worth it because of what this is formed here, because he has a lot of personal power. Yes, but why did it form? Because he is somehow an innocent victim, from a karmic point of view. In other words, he is like a kind person. We have unfairly imprisoned him for these 25 years. That is why he has some kind of universe that compensated him with this kind of abnormal luck. And moreover, her anomaly is emphasized immediately, where he wins there as much as he wants, because he sees this luck. Yes. Moreover, he does not even know himself that he needs to win. Luck itself shows him that he needs to win. So, it's clear that the evil Cooper is trying to eliminate him. He tries to eliminate him, but he has lost his strength and immediately gets into trouble. He immediately goes to prison. Immediately the FBI dreamers David Lynch and his henchmen come out to him, but due to the accumulated knowledge and skills, even without personal strength, he manages to get out of this situation and continues to send his specially trained entities to solve their problems, but since luck has turned away from him, it does not help him.
Но так как удача от него отвернулась, это ему не помогает.
His killers, who had previously done serious things, requiring serious strength and a reserve of luck, fail these times, because they fall, as it were, into the reality of the good Cooper Doogie, who, although stupid and does not think anything, but he has a lot of strength, and he is thus it even changes reality a little.
И он таким образом даже немного меняет реальность.
At the moment when the criminals have already decided to kill him, and they are clearly such a very strained situation, her tension is constantly prompted that Doogie wins in an incredible situation. In other words, luck should be so huge that the whole universe has hammered out this concept, which appeals to him in the best way. Yes, and the next key point comes at the moment when we are shown the actual moment of the beginning. What happened before the first season of Twin Peaks? How Bob actually gets into the world of this Twin Peaks. Here you can guess for a long time about this mother, Pervoslo and Judith. We'll put it simply. There was a certain gap in the probabilities of space reality, it doesn't matter, through which many people escaped, including Bob, after whom the giant sends just the soul of this Laura Palmer. And just this inorganic frog, this is clearly not God, this is clearly just. Of course we are. This is yes. It was said, that is, Bob incarnates there himself, in some way of his own, then what is described. No, such a plot. First of all, a nuclear explosion is just an attempt to show a more complex concept. Here, in closed broadcasts, we explain what the locations are there and new and all that. In other words, this is one of Nola's locations, which the Lich showed exactly in this way, through a nuclear explosion. In other words, it's more of a mood booster. The mood of this feeling of incomprehensible fucking happening, because when the 8th series, in my opinion, knocked out this shit, and this video sequence was supposed to create an appropriate mood for you, and which is expressed further directly by the location with the giant.
Создать у вас соответствующее настроение, и которое выражается дальше уже непосредственно локацию с великаном.
And that's where the giant's cross shows up. It's just that you can see, you can even say, that this is another former forecast, although it's just a small remark. I noticed that he was an unkind giant. He is on his own, and he cannot be considered as a kind character. Because he's one of the characters in this dark wigwam, and we know how things are there. That is, such beings are not kind, and he has some interests of his own. And this is just confirmed by the 8th episode of the 3rd season of Twin Peaks. And when you see that the giant is acting in concert with Bob and all this company of woodcutters, he creates a breakthrough of this reality here, in this nuclear test, for some 40 years. Then, he launches an egg, that is the soul of Laura Palmer, which is introduced into this girl by such a strange creature, a non-organ autodon insectoid. But these woodcutters distract attention and create the possibility of such an introduction. Bob's agents. The agents are from Bob and are shown at the moment when Bob dies, and the agents resurrect him through this sending back to the past, through all these memories of the concept. In other words, it shows that he is registered in this reality, for a reason. In other words, huge efforts have been spent on this, which continue to support God. Yes, and the further conflict between the giant and Bob arose precisely because Bob, as we remember, killed Laura Palm in the first part. That is, he was tempted by this power invested in her. So towards the end, it begins to turn out that the giant is also playing a more active game. That is, we were shown in advance, an introduction to the plot with a much clever man with a green glove, which this very giant gave him. In other words, this is such a gift to Bob in advance. He doesn't do things with his own hands either, but he does it more efficiently. He's not sending a guy with machine guns, but a dude with a green magic shopping glove. In fact, Cooper himself, because Cooper too, yes, and Cooper himself, who also, as we find out at the end, acts solely in the interests of the giant, against his own. And you can also recall smaller agents, like this Andrew and his wife. That is, yes, they also fulfilled their main role. Executed masterfully. We must remember that fool Andy did exactly as the giant told him. So, as far as I understand, the evil Cooper, in order to pull off his trick with him by returning, initially returned just himself to a slightly different branch of reality, but he could just make this Doogie doll, in the reality of Twin Peaks. Why did he then look for coordinates? Exactly what coordinates did he look for? Where did he end up? He ended up in Twin Peaks. That is, he was looking for the coordinates of this original place, because there is clearly his place of power. And for the same he seems to have built this installation to combine these two realities. He goes around collecting coordinates. He is prevented in every way from being unfriendly, or the same Jeffries deleted the wrong coordinates altogether, where if Bob had been less cunning, he would have been killed. Bob, evil Cooper, it's the same thing, let's assume. Plus, this giant is playing a more subtle game against him, who sent his agent to the right place in advance. He also helped Cooper in different places in advance, so that he got to the right point, and as a result, he just sets off his first half-witted agents with a gun, then an agent with a glove and Agent Cooper. And together, they cut out the evil Cooper from the current dream. But as it turns out, the quest does not end there, and the good Agent Cooper continues to fulfill his program, laid down in him by the giant. He needs this Laura Palmer so much that he forces him to change the probabilities and resurrect her from the dead. To make a classic cross, the return of the dead to the real world, to go to the world of Navi, to drag a dead person from the world of Navi and make him alive. As you understand, this is such a serious cross that I, a sane person, for the sake of incomprehensible goals and sacrificing my happiness, because he managed to restore this one. How? Find Diana and Diana, to restore her, the real Diana. By the way, we haven't told you about this quest yet. Here, and to sacrifice all this, for the sake of saving Laura Pavlovna, what is she like? Which she didn't do very well. But it didn't work out, and so. This moment, in general, the whole pics, it shows how not to behave. And I think I don't know, maybe it's worth saying it on the air after all, so don't behave with non-organs or it's not worth it somehow. Well, we'll say it briefly. You shouldn't talk to non-organics especially, listen to what they tell you, get involved in some kind of relationship. Just don't have anything to do with them, don't listen, don't talk, don't help, don't even swear, and don't send to fuck. Just ignore. Yes, here. Cooper behaved absolutely like that, let's say. Therefore, I listened to their advice, empathized with everyone there, participated in this movement, and that's why he got caught. Friend Vovin, do you have anything to add? No, I really like the way you tell it. By and large, at this level, I have nothing to add, only to the tone in which we conducted the conversation. Yes, because if you dig deeper, it will already be closed magism witchcraft topics that we do not have for everyone. Well, maybe we'll move on to the questions slowly, because I see a lot of things have been written here. Interesting questions and asked according to the protocol. You can end. Someone will read, someone will be banned. Mr. Dutch, Mr. Maptuk, you have a classical sect. You say that there is a matrix everywhere, and the batteries themselves, and you spend everyone on efforts, money, and so on. How do you justify yourself? We are going to ban you now, because you are not writing in the subject. We are not discussing sects and other issues right now. Okay, just a minute more. Aha. Yay. Gentlemen magicians, in the last series, runes appeared in the air, which even looked like the sign of Goiga. What do these runes mean in this series? There, in my opinion, was only one rune, the owl rune, and moreover, there was definitely nothing related to Google there. Yes, that is, we are not strong in this particular runic concept. There were only two signs there, the sign of an owl, and now transformed over infinity. Mr. and Magic, another teapot each. Who was sitting there, and why a kettle, or a bell, or X is what? How is Jeffries? Jeffries was. He was. Aspirations and Nola, you can give it a name, because this is also in our open airs on TV, back in the 11th year of the maid. There it is a public washing location, but it is shown again, ideally in the mood. Well, you can see each video in different ways, and it is clear that this is exactly this location, it is just a portal, that is. You can get to different other places from it. As for her appearance, if you pay attention, in the last scene, where Cooper's evil double god is present at the giant's house, together with the major, at the same time, if I may say so. To the left of the screen, there is a whole hall full of such electric automatons, which Jeffries is, so we can say that he is an agent of a giant, who was so disembodied with alone, that all his personal strength went to support the concept of a giant, and to help socially. But he was released on leave for the sake of the cross. Well, by the way, it turns out that we completely scolded the giant. Just note that it uses it more efficiently. He touched all the Luziks with his own hands. I would only say that it is not the major, not Philip Jeffries, who clearly do not suffer, although they have gone completely into the service of the giant. Here's the thing, it's not worth considering it from a human point of view. A giant is not a man, he just achieves some kind of goal and uses what is at hand for this, that's all. It is not necessary to make some kind of emotional condemnation. We can bring some kind of emotional condemnation to Bob, just because he was once a human being, according to the first two parts. And this shit has never been a man, and being angry at a giant is like being angry, I do not know, at a lathe. It will be more complicated than a lathe installation. Since he is not human, that is, he is simply inhuman, let's say, and Bob is evil, because he was probably an evil person. And on the other hand, he's not so evil. All this is very conditionally. Dear magicians, what does it mean that Laura screamed at the end of the last episode? She realized that it was a dream, and how it was related to what Lorana was whispering to Cooper. And that's all we've explained. In principle, I can voice it here. It's worth it just like that. Okay, well, the details are as follows. 2 magical witchcraft details. So, today I'm looking at a surprisingly many questions not according to protocol, and some strange characters. So it seems to have been dealt with. So, there are no questions yet. Is there anything else we can summarize from what we have said? Perhaps we have rattled the whole plot quite clearly, based precisely on the internal logic of the series, that is, to do for the new season. Yes, if there is one, that's most likely to be. So, forecasts? Here are the forecasts we talked about. I don't remember now. Well, the fact that in the new season, most likely, it will be revealed, what is the significance of Laura Palmer? Why was she needed? This is for sure, that is, it will revolve around Laura Palmer, and it will be shown why he really is here. Because this is Laura Palmer, this is the Giant's building, and here is Madame. Accordingly, her need for Ash is such that he sends Cooper a rather hopeless quest. Well, quite serious, and moreover Cooper. In the end, it is unclear whether the Russians are sending, or whether Cooper is simply due to his lack of intelligence. The Chinese in such a reckless quest, it's hard to say. Because, just like that, to drag these ideas, then he no longer responds to his will from someone else's. This is exactly the explanation that just the will of this giant was much stronger than any of these people. Well, what kind of will does this English hooligan drunk have there? That is, they took him and sent him to the right place. Quite simple techniques. Is this Jeffrey's agent? No, I was about which one in rubber gloves. Oh, yes. And the magicians, who was a clairvoyant. There were a lot of clairvoyants there, in case you haven't noticed. The main dreamer was Cooper, because, what? This is a collective dream. It's just being told to us more or less on behalf of Cooper, because it can be told both on behalf of the giant, and on behalf of Bob. They are all subjects acting quite themselves within the framework of this collective dream. And when Bob is kicked out, he is not killed, he is kicked out of this particular collective dream. Simple. Killing him would have looked different, I'll tell you, I noticed. It revolves all the same around Cooper, so Cooper is a dreamer. But the main quest is, it turns out, Laura Power. That is, it is as it was intended. Only here is such a very tricky relationship. Friend Voven, do you have something to add or summarize? I'm at a loss. Well, then we'll finish slowly, because we are. Yes, do you have any questions? Yes, if there are any questions, you can always add them in the comments. I will summarize everything we have said a little bit. I will make it shorter with a shake. It is possible to predict and work with some events only by understanding the logic of what is happening. What is the difference between what we told about David Lynch and what anyone else tells? The fact that we understand the logic of what is happening, and we have proved it by making predictions come true. Be sure to review our previous David Lynch streams. If you haven't seen them, watch this stream, and you will understand that yes, we understand the logic of this film, because it is close to us, because David Lynch is clearly a dreamer. He shoots his works about dreaming according to dream logic, and so on and so forth. And that's why we talk about his work. Here's what you can add. David Lynch. This is the third season of Twin Peaks. It's quite difficult to understand. That's how much it's not as complicated as the Inner Empire, although I understand it. And you can also give a detailed explanation for it. But here, I noticed that most people, they don't even understand this highway to nowhere, although this is a simple concept. That's also Mulholland Drive a little more complicated. And here is the third season of those peaks. That is, here you need to go deeper into these dreams even deeper. That is, if you are a dreamer and interact with all these locations, it is very easy to understand what is happening there. And if not, then probably it remains only to solve some puzzles, which David Lynch does, it seems to me, purely for the sake of a joke here. He likes to joke in the form of this dwarf, who runs around with a knife. To be a poor-minded person, there were some riddles to solve. Yes, something like these riddles. Here are these frames here. It's obviously specially made to just here. Well, it's clear that they are watching him not only for this, that is, they are interested in something, but they need to show that it's not just like that. In addition, Lynch brilliantly tolerates these dream concepts. So anyone, even a son unknown there, he's just more or less familiar with the dream, thinks I've seen it somewhere. That is, someone here is familiar, so I saw it all in the same way. That's why he's so popular. Yes, here he has a talent, here is a transfer. It's like the camera is dreaming about them, that is. And we won't tell the rest of these jokes on the air, but if you want to see what real magical special effects look like, watch the third season of Twin Peaks. They look exactly as they will show. This is what real magic looks like. No one will show you more precisely yet. The 16th series. Yes, the battle in the 16th series is an absolutely amazing concept here. Everything that happens there, in the form of a confrontation of forces, that's how it happens. So the battle of the magicians takes place. Magic wars. As it is shown here in the Impex, this is what happens. Review our streams, practice our practices, repeat over and over again, until everything becomes clear, understandable, and achievable for you in practice. Then you'll understand what it's about. So fuck begging. Bye-bye. Guy. Guy. Guy.